All right, let's get into it. Where we are, 10:43 on 22nd of October. Yeah, bit of a crazy start to the week in that, but look, I'll start off with gold because these are the nice things you like particularly if you're into your technical analysis. It's like so beautiful when you see these things and you're like, okay, these are the calls, particularly with these videos because there's no hindsight trading. It's no like, oh yeah, I picked that number. You can literally go through the videos and sort of see the analysis and see how I've come to these levels. And we mark them out and we say, bang, this is where we want to go to. This is where we got it to. And it's just smack bang. I mean, this is even more poetic because it's actually sort of hit right in the actual wording of price target as well. But as I say with these things, these are the levels that I pick are price levels, not necessarily timing levels. There are little things where you say, back tests and that, but again, that's to do with levels with it all. So, anyway, enough of that. Long story short, we had the completion of the flag, which is our first price target. So to get hit overnight, and it's sort of quite hard actually. I actually sort of got on the short side of silver and gold through this period here because of literally that. Like, you ride your longs up to your price target. I'm not going to be the only person or the only segment of the market that's looking at this. And of course, it's not just the gold chart that we're looking at. We're looking at a number of different things, the gold silver ratio. We're looking at DXY. There wasn't really a great deal of data out last night, but we did see, I think, sort of the US 10 sort of take off a little bit more as well. So there are those other parts that play into it. But for here, we had this push up here. We had our consolidation back to 2600, push through. This is our price target, 2730 to 2740, smashed it, and then bang, as you can see, sold off there. So look, it doesn't mean that gold's done. It's not like, oh wow, we've hit the price target, we're over. As I said, we do have the other price target potentially. This wasn't necessarily something that I initially thought. This first move here, this was the play that I thought, and I've been saying as well that I feel a little bit cautious moving up around here with gold. I mean, it's super bullish, yes. So it's definitely on your side to keep buying dips and all this kind of stuff. But as I said, I'm a short-term trader in that. I was long through this period. I was short through this period. I've been long since 2600 again. So I am a little bit cautious up around this area. Hence the shorts coming in last night. So yeah, if we sort of clean this up a little bit, we can see that this one here, this gave us a nice little pullback to the 61%, but obviously it's a bit hard to sort of read where we're at, where we've got 1,000 different fibs on here. So this was this last move through here. That's great. 61. We just keep that for reference so we can tell that 61 is definitely a strong area. That can produce good sort of extensions because obviously there's quite a deep sort of pullback, 61%. We say sort of 38% is the way you want to go, and you can see if you go through here, 38 held, tried to hold a couple of times but came down, but 61 was ultimately the full low that sort of actually sort of produced to get this last move up here. So if we have a look at this last move from this low, from the 61%, and we say, okay, we're potentially, if this decides to sort of just put in another low, sorry, not another low, but like, decides to kick up and then maybe sort of have a deeper sort of pullback through here, where could we look for possible entries? Well, automatically you see that this 38% retracement, which we know again is a fairly strong continuation pullback, is almost perfectly in line with these previous highs over here. So this is an area that I'd be kind of interested in through here. If should we be able to get a pullback to this area here, we can see that it tested here a little bit, pulled back, bang, broke, and as it made that new high over 85, that was the break there. So, that would be a reasonable area, I would say, 26.85. I mean, we did push up 27.40. So, you know what I mean? A pullback down here won't come in one line. I don't think we're just going to get this a meltdown like this. What I'm sort of feeling, with this potential sort of thing here, look, I'll get to DXY in a moment because I think that is really, as I've been saying, the big driver. I think I've more or less just ignored what has been going on in the Middle East. I mean, yes, you could say, well, gold is up and Middle East and stuff is, but something happens and somebody gets bombed and something like, but the market doesn't move with that. And like, even through, I was saying through this period here, as it was pulling back, the market was more or less ignoring escalation news of that kind of stuff. So say we get something to this sort of effect through here, and this is purely just speculative kind of thing because it doesn't really line up with much, but the idea is what we're looking for. Say we get something like this, where say, we get a little bit of a flare up and then down and we put in a lower low and we see a little bit of a dribble back down to this area over here. If we can see a confirmed lower high through here, well, okay, we know we're in a bit more of a pullback, particularly if we put in a lower high, then a lower low, that confirms it. Okay, we're pulling back. That's fine. Back to 2685. Retested this breakout area, 38% retracement of this particular move. Could see a nice sort of like move back down here to then get this leg. And this is what we always say. You always have to have this kind of leg. It'll be different time frames. I mean, this is on the 4 hour here. It'll be different time frames that, come up with different amounts, but significant sort of things. Like, because obviously here you've got to pull back, you'll get a push up here. And this is on the 4 hour. But we're talking in terms of this big move up here. It'll pull back, it'll find support somewhere, and it'll come up. And this is the big one. This move through here is what you really want to see, because 4 hour is good, but it's not going to be the sort of, it's not going to define multi-month trends. So I would say that potentially we sort of see a little bit of a short-term flare up in gold, and then potentially a little bit of a further dribble back here. If we happen to rally and go back up to sort of 27.40, because we're only 20 bucks off. And again, if you look at the size of this move that went through here, this was short and sharp. This was very heavy. And this is what I think, sort of like, this was in conjunction with a lot of people hitting that kind of price target. I mean, it just happens to be at the same perfect level. So I would say that this is some profit taking with it all. If we do happen to go straight back up to 27.40, which isn't unheard of or impossible, I would say that's very bullish for gold because, as you can see, you're finding support already. If the buyers are happy to sort of just, even after the sell-off, just sort of take it from here and then push it straight up again, they're not waiting. You're not looking at 2 or 3 waves of profit taking. You're looking at this sort of one measured move, sort of people, a lot of people taking profit, going bang, okay, yep, that's down, maybe shake out some longs, or like sort of the people that got sort of long just yesterday, sort of waited till you see these big closes and get in first thing Monday morning and sort of take their money and then sort of run it off. If we go through 27.40 in a short term, like as in through this session today, I would say that this is going to sort of just go and then shoot up, and you're probably going to get quite a nice push to the top side because it just shows that you can see buyers are here, they've moved up, they've moved up, they've moved up. They're not even waiting for these pullbacks, like the sort of 23% pullback. So we know that they're very keen to just keep pushing, 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 pushing. Ideally, if you were looking for this, as I said, I think this is your nice kind of retest. But as we've seen, with a couple of these big breakouts, like particularly this one back here, I sort of referenced going sort of through August, and we broke out in September. This one broke out, it came back, but didn't quite get there, and then just ran off. So in terms of getting sort of proper structural back tests, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen. I mean, these were technically the highs at one stage there as well. And we can see the pullback here didn't quite get to the full touch up of that as well. So, the idea that you get the full pullback here sounds great, but it doesn't mean it's necessarily going to happen. So again, look, I'm a little bit cautious still to buy it up here. Like I believe that, we are going to get a little bit more of a sort of cooling through this period here. DXY absolutely ripped up last night. But I'll get on to DXY next because DXY, I've covered it before. DXY can get very sort of tricky with its tops. And I'll sort of reference a few of those sort of previous things as well. So look, that's the thought with gold. We've hit the price target. I expect it maybe a little push up here and then maybe continue sort of pull back. Sort of if we can get down to 26.85, retested this, as I said, a couple of times here, 38% retracement. Retested the highs. I think that's a pretty good level, which you'll sort of see buyers sort of step back in. So around this sort of area here. Let's make that buyers. visualize that. Yeah, beautiful. All right. So yeah, I mean, look, there's obviously going to be trades through this kind of period, but I think if you can get back down here over the next couple of sessions or so, I would say that this is an area that would be very much of interest. Okay, flip it along. So we got DXY, and this is obviously the root cause of that kind of stuff, sort of hitting back there. Unable to get the break down under this, and this was from the weekend video, the weekend analysis. I said this is the crucial line here, and I said this is why we've got it marked out because, as I've covered a couple of times and mentioned more recently as well, you want to be able to see. Let's get this out of the way. You want to be able to see the candles do what the previous ones haven't been able to do, and these ones here, yes, it closed down here, but remember this is the last hour, and we don't really count the last hour or the last 4 hour candle on a Friday. So it was unable to get a close down underneath this section, and we could see buys held here, and it just came up here. At first, we were looking good, like I was saying, yep, head and shoulders. But again, this is the move that we wanted. We wanted this move that broke down underneath, came and retested, and then put in a lower low. That was our trigger to say that this is pulling back. We didn't even get the close underneath, let alone the retests or any of that kind of sort of stuff. So, yeah, I mean, it's obviously just jammed back up to the top side. But if we zoom out a little bit and we sort of look at this and we go, okay, where's it hitting? We can see these are very strong support, 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 support. We've had a number of things, the 61% obviously being one of them. This is closed right up into this area. This is why we've got these things marked out, because we said, look, if this thing, all the way through here, if it keeps going, these are the levels that we're going to potentially be looking at and that what we're going to be sort of looking for. And we're up into it right now. So look, US dollar, as I said, can be very bullish. We put in one bearish day as all the funds were sort of like, all the flow was sort of going into the metals. But, apart from that, look at this. It's just like going through over here. But again, as I said, look at how look at how DXY turns around. It's coming down, flare up, coming down, flare up. Look, you got lower highs, lower lows. It's coming down, coming down, coming down. Then it puts in a couple of days to go bang right back up to the top again, and then it gives it up, moving down. Similar to this top over here. Selling down, and these are dailies. I mean, remember, we only had one bearish day there, but this one here, bearish day, another bearish day at the top, bang, jams up to a whole new high, sells down a bunch of days, bangs back up, sells down, bang, bang, like, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't turn around after one day. Look at these tops over here. You know what I mean? It took like a week or so for this to sort of actually sort of roll around. Bunch of wicks going through the top side over here. Coming through the top over here, well, this is coming down, coming down, coming down. One massive day up to the top side. So just because we get one big flare day up doesn't mean that, okay, hold on, wait, we're on to the next rally and we're going up higher. Look, it doesn't mean that sort of like, it is going to play out like these ones. I'm just saying that this is how DXY particularly tends to act, kind of thing. It's very hard to turn around once it gets going. So, so the main thing to look for here is if DXY starts to consolidate this area up here. If it starts to consolidate this area here, we could be seeing some sort of turnaround. We could be seeing sort of like, okay, if this comes back down here or dribbles down, comes over, like if it stays in this kind of little consolidation area, then okay, we can say that, pretty much just wait it out. It'll do a couple of fake move back up, back up, back up, and then we'll see these moves come down over here. Alternatively, we're just in a little pause and it just goes bang and jams up through here again. And then we're starting to look up to these kind of areas over here. Let's get put these back on zones. These potential areas through here, you got to whoop. These are the kind of next levels that we'd be looking for. You got major zones up around 105. But again, because it's been so choppy through here previously, you got to think eventually this thing will have a little bit of a cap on it moving up through here. But I'm leaning more to the idea that we probably see some consolidation through the next couple of days, some games of where it looks like it's falling down and it shoots back up again. I think that's probably what I'm more leaning towards. The fact that we've sort of closed right into this, resistant support, previous support. It's the first time into it. As what I say time and time again, things don't typically break the first time you hit it. So the fact that, look, we sort of didn't make it through there the first time, rejected from the 61% retracement, pushed back down, pushed up into this area. This is still technically the first time coming into this little marked out green zone here. So I would say that sort of like, most likely we see a consolidation through here. If we sort of push out to the top side here, well, obviously got that wrong. On we go, further pullback in metals and associated crosses with US dollar. But I'm sort of more leaning to the idea that we see some sort of consolidation through here. All right, so that's bigger picture. Get down into the smaller levels, and as you can see, it's starting to roll over a little bit here. Short term, you want to get that back underneath this wick over here. We'll put an alert here. How do we do it? Yeah. I'm not saying it's pulling back, I'm just saying short-term cooling. If you take out this lower wick over here, and we see this, because that'll give you a lower high through here, and it just gives a bit more of a sort of rollover kind of motion with this kind of stuff here. Potentially then we come down here and, as I said, stuff around. We could take this off now because it's obsolete. It was a thought, but we didn't get there. Look, the negative divergence is played out. This kind of stuff. Yeah, I think that's really what I'm looking for here. I think if we sort of go back down underneath this wick, we see further cooling down through this period here. So just bear with me 1 second. What's this relating to? Oh, that was the pullback there. Oh, yes, you can see, yes, it's gone past the highs, that's why. So we can get rid of that. Just clean this up a little bit. Cool. So, yeah, I think under this one, we're back down here. If it decides to just jam up the thing, I think it'll move quite fast, and I think it'll sort of come back up, and I think we're looking at sort of 104.30 for the next stop, should it sort of break out of this area over here. So, go here, breaking higher, 104.30 price target. I think that's what you're looking for there. So, it's a tough call. I mean, look, as I said, this is what DXY does. It really sort of stuffs with you a lot, where you think it's breaking down. Oh, no, it's not. It's jammed right out the top and blown everybody apart. And then, it'll come back down here and be like, oh, no, and bang, it goes up again. So there's certainly a lot of games that it does like to sort of play as it starts to turn around. But this is the thing, and this is why, it's important sometimes really just to sort of only trade a number of things to really get to know them. Really get to know how they're going to act, and sort of see, I mean, that's how you're going to make the money. All right, boom, move on. We got Aussie, obviously the recipient of some bashing on that US dollar flare up, but this is the idea. So we had a number of ideas through here. See if we got the pullback through here. You can see came back into those 80s area. Market tried to hold it, and then bang, that extra little jam down. And this is what I'm talking. These are the associated things. Even though Aussie is not part of the DXY, it is this kind of thing where we've got the breakout of this wedge, retest the breakout level, looks like it's going to go, and then what is everybody sort of like, okay, let's put our positions on, bang, jams down, blows them out. Like it'll stuff with people. So look, that was the potential for this move here. We've obviously seen a deeper pullback here. If we carry this down and say that's the top side of the wedge, no, look, it doesn't really line up so much with that wedge, so it's a little bit obsolete, that one, but we can get rid of this and we can get rid of this. We go back to this original sort of thought through here. And look, it's pretty much come to a T with this, because we did say, price broke this rising support. It broke 67, tried to rally back up a number of times. And that's the thing, again, if you go back and you watch the videos, I sort of label all these things, because you should be able to sort of like condense it down into basically a sentence or two. You don't want to, like, yes, it takes sort of half an hour to do the analysis to get to that sentence, but you should be able to sort of consolidate your idea of what's happening in a few words, basically. And I said Aussie's going to be capped up into the up into the 67s. And as you can see, it has done exactly that. So it's come back down here. That's fine. We'll see how we go. Again, look, if DXY does play out as we sort of thought, I'd imagine some little sort of playing around this area over here. This to be our little range that it plays in till till DXY sort of works out what it's going to do. Well, the market works out what it's going to do with the US dollar. So we can sort of drag this down for the top side there. Actually, no, let's get rid of this one. So look, if we see a little bit of a break back down, as I said, if we get that lower alert going off on DXY and we see it sort of cooling off a little bit, Aussie's going to catch a bit of a bid and it'll sort of come back up over here. Normal sort of things, 67 is going to be a big one to sort of get above the 90s. We know that. So again, look, I wouldn't be sort of looking for the great recovery of all things, but that's okay. You can still trade ranges while you're waiting for things to actually pick their direction. Look, if this does go underneath here, we've got some pretty strong sort of buying support down here, which hasn't been tested yet. So right down in the sort of 66.40s. But certainly, look, it's come down here a couple of times. We found some buying last time. If it breaks this, well, you know, we're probably looking down, probably another sort of, 30 points or so to the downside. But again, as I said, I think DXY is more playing a little bit of a game, and I think we should see a little bit of a sort of consolidation, at least before it does go through, which I think will give sort of Aussie some potential reprieve through at least this area up over to sort of the 80s, 90s, before it sort of moves back up. But this is what I say. As I said, look, when price breaks structure, I use the term it's got to be punished. It's got to pay the price. And it did. It came down here, it's come back up, boom, 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 like, you know what I mean? It's come down, I suppose not too far from here, but realistically, you know, it's down 100 points or so, which is a fairly decent sort of pullback from it all. So, yeah, it's a tough call to sort of say on Aussie at the moment. I would say, look, if we want to sort of pick some intra sessions, if you get above 65, I would say that that's an area where we could say short term. I'm not saying recovery, even short term push. That's what it is. See, above 65, you break out of this like little area that's just stuffed around in. It's like early hours of the morning, so it's not really too much to sort of go off with this zone here. And then you look for potentially a move to 90, and then, you know what I mean? I'd be very cautious if it got above 67. I think that's going to be a very tough area for it to break above. As you can see, it's support, 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 support. It was all resistance and pushed it back down. So, I mean, look, if you do happen to get above 67.30s, well, you know, that's your bottom range for it over here. But I wouldn't be putting too much stock on that just in the time being. All right, move along. So we got silver. As I said, I caught the sort of short side of silver through this part here. Didn't get the pullback that I would have expected in early charge trading. Like I thought, we thought maybe we got a little bit deeper, but maybe this was just wishful thinking, really, in hindsight. So, you know, obviously it's pulled back. It's still a very shallow pullback in terms of this. So if we have a look at where we at, if we call this move through here from the last sort of little breakout run, 23%. Only this one's 23% here because this hadn't made that high as at that point. So I think this is a little area that we can look for here as well. If you want to get a little continuation, this is what you're looking to get above. This is a zone. You want to stay above. I'm going to put it on the bottom wick. So typically you sort of pick some bodies and all this kind of, actually look, you know what, we're actually going to put it here. I'm going to say, look, if you get a close under 66. So the thing is, obviously it's pushed down here a couple of times, but it's been brought back up quite quickly. Obviously it's attempting a little move to the top side here. You get a close down under 56. Look, I'm going to put the alert here. If we get a close under here, I'm going to say we're going to be looking for a deeper pullback. Doesn't mean it's over. Gonna run out of alerts soon. Look, if we get this alert going off and we get a close underneath this zone, then we look for these kind of pullbacks areas. And again, if we go for these previous highs over here, the wick highs, it's at the 38%. So I would say between the 38 and this kind of 38% and the 50% retracement. I mean, yes, I think eventually it will come back down and retest this major breakout level. But I would imagine something to the effect of if it does break down through here, to get this, to get this, to get this, to get this, to get this. Like, I don't think this is just going to be a straight waterfall back down. I think it'll grind back down and then potentially move like this. We do have some like pretty big levels, as I covered on the weekend, up around the 35 area. Um, so I do think we are probably destined to get up here. But as I said, same with gold. I imagine a little bit of a flare down, sort of grind down, hit those levels, and then sort of move up to the top side. Again, if you move through here quickly, well, you can see buyers are not, people are taking small bits of profit, but they're sort of like, very much keen to just run it straight through. If we do see DXY cool down, cool off a little bit more, straight back into the metals, in my opinion. All right, copper. Copper's certainly having a tough time. Look, it didn't quite even get to this sort of falling resistance. Maybe we can update it a bit and say, came down through here. Look, no. Look, close enough, I suppose, with it all. We're talking a few points in that. But this was the idea. Obviously, this little wedge through here, this was our target up towards the top side here. Look, came up a little bit. I actually sort of closed out the last of my copper positions, just because I think it is still just doing it a little bit tough at the moment. I think potentially a little bit more sort of consolidation around here and maybe start to build out something a bit more of a rounded bottom like this. So I think there could be a little bit more opportunity of up and down before this then sort of breaks and goes to the top side. I mean, this was the little area that we sort of called at the top here. We said, look, if we break this little consolidation, potentially we look for this big area. And here we are down at the bottom. That's fine. I think we sort of dribble along sideways. I do think we have upside coming. It's just I don't think it's a sort of I don't think it's an early sort of something you got to like sort of rush into. I think the fact that we get these hard sell downs means that we could see a little flare up, a little flare down. So you can certainly, again, if you want to play the ranges with it all, buy the lows. If it gets back down to these sort of like 434 areas, I'll probably have another stab at it and buy a bit more because I think the sort of risk reward's pretty good. But I would say that this is potentially going to be running through for the next sort of week or so, just in this lower area. And I'll be looking for this kind of rounded bottom to then sort of break out through this top side over here. So no rush on that one there. And you'll see China. Geez, this one just keeps flaring back up. It just won't sort of come back down. As I see, it's pulled through here, found resistance, broke again through this potential. This is kind of a bit obsolete now because it broke through, came in, broke through. It's not really respecting it. Just see if we can line this up with anything else. Not really. No, I don't really like that. No, look, I think pretty much horizontals are just in play here. It doesn't really seem to be respecting any kind of trend line. And that's the thing as well, like sort of like, this is why it's important to have a couple of understandings of different sort of actual sort of technical analysis. It's not just support resistance or it's not just sort of trend lines because you do find some things do trade in certain ways. They do trade like um, respecting horizontals more, respecting trend lines more. I mean, we can see with this as it was coming down, that little sort of break retest that respected the trend line very well. But as of now, it's broken through, it's broken through. It doesn't really seem to be respecting it. I think if you go above this horizontal, that's going to be a continuation. You go below, or even back down here, below 706, I think that's going to be a cool off here. But for me, again, this is one that I'm a little bit sort of skeptic on. Because once this does start grinding, we've seen it in the past, it can keep on grinding like, just sideways. It's not a really fast mover, but it can still keep leveling up. So, yeah, I think as long as it's underneath 714, then, you're looking a bit more of a sideways area. with 707 to 714 being the kind of area or the range that you might be looking to play. I think a break below here or a break above here. Let's put this one. Let's update this. They're your kind of two levels that I'd be sort of interested to sort of see if we're going to see direction. Otherwise, I'd imagine, yeah, just a little bit more of a sideways grind. All right, cool. Flip across quickly. Just finish with gold silver ratio. As I said, through the weekend, this is the area we were looking for. Strong confluence. Previous area here, you can't see so much on the 4 hour there. It's the relevance. Even though the daily is a little bit choppy with it all, but I think the weekly is where we came up with it. Yeah. So here's the weekly. We can see that this is an area was resistance before it obviously exploded through to the top side. This is an area which we're starting to find some support. It's also a confluence of this lower, well, sort of falling support area here. This is another sort of thing that falls in the camp of, metals cooling off. Because as we know, when this is moving down, we're seeing metals move in a bullish sort of market. These are the two little things I put here. This was the line that we were oscillating oscillating around for a couple of weeks actually. But, pull back in metals, test the highs, bang, 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 pumps through here, brand new highs, pretty straightforward. So, look, if this does start to rally up over here, this is another thing that makes you see we may be seeing a little bit of a pullback in metals. If we do see a little bit of a sort of retest of this area, this could also just come up to this bottom wick over here as well. It could just be capped in this lower area. If you break through this area down here, that's where we're going to see another wave of metals buying. But as I said, I do think that this may potentially have a little bit of a reprieve and push back up over here, which will give metals a little bit of a cooling off. All right, cool. Just flip across, have a look at the news. As you can see, again, it's pretty dead news-wise, sort of through Asia. Coming through here, even through sort of Europe, there's nothing. Really, nothing too much interest. Even through US, so we got that Richmond manufacturing data. Again, weak data here should be sort of seeing a little bit of a cooling off with DXY. So particularly if this shocks, if this gets a lot better, well, maybe that could jam DXY up a little bit higher. But I do think that, with these sort of weak numbers, it is really sort of, despite other people sort of saying, it's, strong economic data and, whatever US data miracle or whatever term they use, these kind of parts, although they're not sort of the high tier bits of data, the manufacturing down, we had Empire State Manufacturing massive miss to the downside the other day. These are very weak numbers as well. Excuse me. Despite it sort of being a slight tick up, they are still very weak numbers, which leads more in the side that the Fed will need to sort of lend a helping hand. So obviously sort of with that, if you play it out, it's basically weak for US dollar. Apart from that, not really too much, and we'll check out the other ones tomorrow. All right, that's it from me.